At this time, I'd like to call the May 4th, 2025 City Council regular meeting to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, please conduct the roll call.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski,
Present.
Vice Mayor Jan Dubaskus,
Present.
Council Members Barry Graham,
Present.
Adam Quasman, Kathy Littlefield,
Present.
Marianne McAllen,
Present.
and Solange Whitehead.
Here.
Interim City Manager Greg Caton,
Present.
Acting City Attorney Louis Santiago,
Present.
City Treasurer Sonia Andrews,
Here.
Acting City Auditor Leigh Clough,
Here.
and the Clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Tonight we have Scottsdale Police Sergeant Sean Ryan and Lieutenant Dan Kirikopoulos, hopefully I'm saying that right, as well as firefighter Lane Henney. If anyone requires their assistance, please let a member of the staff know. And for the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to ask Councilwoman McAllen to lead us in that. Thank you. Councilman Graham, would you like to help us with the invocation?
Madam Mayor, thank you so much. I'd like to invite City Chaplain Don Burgess to the podium at your convenience. And if I can just say a few brief words before Chaplain Burgess begins. I reached out and our entire, you can go ahead to the podium right there. Chaplain Burgess has a 28-year career in law enforcement. He retired as a lieutenant after 21 years with Scottsdale's police department, and during that time he developed and implemented the city's chaplaincy program. In retirement, Chaplain Burgess felt a calling to ministry and pastoral care, and he attended seminary and pastored a small congregation in Stanford, Arizona, and then became a chaplain with Hospice of the Valley. He currently volunteers with HOV and their Honoring First Responders program, and he returned to SPD 9 years ago as a chaplain. And he's grateful to once again be a part of this organization and to be associated with so many dedicated law enforcement professionals. So it's my honor to invite Chaplain Burgess to provide today's invocation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilman Graham, council members, mayor, vice mayor, the citizens who gathered here this evening. Will you pray with me? Holy God, you bless us in so many ways with family and friendships, with the place we live and work and the freedoms we cherish. We thank you for these blessings. We come together today in this place of city government where elected officials will listen to the concerns of the citizenry and will debate the important issues affecting our city. We thank you for them. We thank you for those who have gone before us, those who dedicated themselves to laying the foundation of city government and have made Scottsdale the dynamic and vibrant city it is today. And we thank you for those city workers, paid and volunteer, who have given so much so that we can enjoy the quality of life that we have here in Scottsdale. And so, Holy God, we pray to you that you will give us wisdom as we consider the issues and challenges facing our city, courage to make the difficult decisions that will need to be made. And we pray that you give us compassion for those who call Scottsdale their home, for visitors that they may feel welcomed, to those who do business here, and for those who have chosen to devote their professional lives to making Scottsdale the truly world-class city that it is. We pray that you be with us now. Protect all those who serve through their service to this community. We pray this in the name of our Creator, the one who sustains us through the ups and downs of this life, and to the Redeemer who saves us to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much. As in for the mayor's report, I'd like to let everyone know about the upcoming Mayor's Ability Awards. And that will also include the newly created Community Disability Advocate Award, which all awards will be presented on Friday, April 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Western Spirit, Scottsdale's Museum of the West. The Ability Awards provide scholarships through financial assistance to those who have demonstrated exceptional resilience in overcoming the challenges of living with a disability and have a strong desire to continue their education. This scholarship program is led by the Mayor's Office and sponsored through a partnership with the Gila River Indian community. And I would like to thank the Gila River community as our partners for their continued support. As I mentioned, new this year, we have the Community Disability Advocate Award, which will celebrate volunteers, business leaders, and nonprofit heroes who work daily to make sure all who live, work, and play in Scottsdale are celebrated for their efforts. And if you have any nominations that fit within any of these award categories, we encourage you to send them to my office. And with that, we will turn to first public comment. Public comment is reserved for Scottsdale citizens, business owners, and/or property owners to comment on non-agendized items that are within the council's jurisdiction. No official council action can be taken on these items, and speakers are limited to 3 minutes each in order to address their comments to the council. If you wish to speak on a non-agendized item or agendized topic, please see Clerk Ben Lane. This evening, I think we have 8 non-agendized public comments, and I'll start with Michael Schaefer, followed by Pat Sullivan, and then Robert Crawford.
I just wanted to check on a PowerPoint presentation I think Ben's helping with. Wanted to take a minute for that to start.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Michael Schaefer. Live at 10619 North 82nd Place near Shea and Hayden. Mayor, City Council, thank you for hearing our story today. I'm bringing a petition to the city on behalf of me, my wife, and a number of others, neighbors that are with us today, who also signed the petition, I think upwards of about 20 signatures on it. The petition is regarding a residence located at 8226 East Shea, which has turned a residence where the owners have never lived there into a sports training facility and a construction storage site violating R135 zoning. The matter is simple. It's no longer a residence. It's become a commercial property. No one lives there. We ask to have the owners return the property to R135 zoning with landscaping again. The landscaping has been removed. There's none there now. Our property line touches theirs. I'm also very thankful that the citizens of Scottsdale have elected a new mayor and city council. You all have given us hope. Zoning regulations serve to protect the residents, the city they live in, to control real estate, keeping it within the zoning rules, especially in our neighborhoods. The neighbors have complained over and over. Raise a hand if you've ever led a complaint. We request a copy, and we understand we have to FOIA those complaints in order to get them. We are wondering why the complaints have never been addressed. On the topic, I love kids. There's nothing better than kids playing sports. I've been a foster kids coach for over 20 years, and I grew up playing sports in my backyard. This all started one night with the owner telling me he had a plan for a play area for his granddaughter. I don't even know, maybe that's her, to practice softball. I pictured one of those little little nets, and you hit the ball or throw the ball into it and it bounces back. Now it's a professional, for-fee sports training facility and a construction office and storage facility for that construction company. Along with, you'll see billboard advertising on vans, extensive sports lighting next to my home, in my eyes, lighting up my backyard. And right along a residential-only section of Shea Boulevard, often with 20 to 30 cars parked out front. A person was killed immediately in front of this property in a car accident in 2024. We, in reviewing R135, see many violations included in a supplement I provided with the petition. You should have a copy. Residence, by definition, means people live there. The situation is clear for us. R135 is violated. R stands for residential, i.e., people living in a home. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Appreciate that. Pat Sullivan, then Robert Crawford, and Laura Schaefer.
I'm Pat Sullivan. I live at 10617 North 83rd Street, and my house is just across the easement from Hercules Field. Hercules Field is owned by Michael Gerhardt. He does not live at that address. Mr. Gerhardt refers to the property as a sports facility hosting baseball games for numerous teams. This area is zoned as a residential property. Hercules Field is a commercial business. When baseball games are being played, there can be 30-plus cars in the front yard, which is on Shea. 40,000 cars per day drive on Shea Boulevard. Turning across a traffic lane to access the parking lot at Hercules Field creates additional hazard on Shea Boulevard. The area from the 101 to Hayden is one of the most dangerous stretches of Shea and has a high level of car accidents. I've had baseballs land in my yard. Empty water bottles, napkins, plastic bags, and litter from the fields ends up in the easement, leaving cleanup of such litter to the homeowner. I can hear the crack of the bat when games are going on. Hercules Field creates traffic hazards, noise issues, and litter from the activities. I certainly hope that Scottsdale will start enforcing the zoning code. Hercules Field is not a residential property.
Thank you. Robert Crawford.
Honorable Mayor, council members, my name is Robert Crawford Jr. I reside at 8301 East Desert Cove Avenue, and I've lived at this address for over 12 years. I am part of the Sundown Ranch Acres Neighborhood Watch Group, many of whom our neighbors are here today. I want to thank Michael Schaefer and Laura Schaefer and the other speakers regarding the situation with Hercules Field. As has been well articulated, this property has created many negative impacts, including parking, noise, lighting, property damage, and other issues. This is a commercial business operating at a home, which is intended under the zoning to be a residence. I believe, it is my personal opinion, that the city may have been misled in issuing a permit to construct a batting cage and a playing field with the idea that this was someone's personal residence. Instead, it has been turned into a commercial venture. I urge the city and the council to take action regarding this matter and to help the homeowners in Sundown Ranch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Laura Schaefer, followed by Elizabeth Fernandez, and then Ed Lessigar.
Hi, my name is Laura Schaefer, and I live at Sundown Ranches neighborhood. And thank you for allowing us to speak today. What I want to say about this situation is that this is, as everyone else has stated, this is not a residence. It's not being used as a residence. It was a residence to start with, but immediately upon their purchase, they had the full intention of it being a ball field and storage facility for their second business. That's what we see. That's all that's been there. No one spent the night there. No one has their mail going there for personal purposes. We love children. We love sports. We think sports is the best way to keep children in line and out of trouble. However, the city has built beautiful sporting facilities for the public to use, and we welcome them to go use those facilities, and we would even support that completely, maybe even show up at a game and root them on. However, if these owners want to have a legal ball field, they need to move it to their residence, which is over in McCormick Ranch, and allow that to be there in their neighborhood, in their front yard. And if that were the case, that I think would be legal, although they'd have to face the HOA. But this is not legal here. And we suffer from the consequences of a lot of dust, kickback from the cars driving through their dirt parking lot. I mean, there can be 30 to 35 cars there on a given night, probably tonight as they were gearing up for something to happen tonight when we left the home. They also have the people walking throughout the neighborhoods. They drive their little 4x4 vehicle full of kids down our easement that's not connected to their easement, down our own personal easement, and to take them over to see the llamas down in the next neighborhood. They use this property, our property, to their own discretion, however they wish, without any respect to the rest of the neighborhood. And we would like this stopped. We would like there to be something done to protect our rights as citizens and as property owners, and to no longer have to endure what they've decided to come in and do and not even live in the midst of. That's what we ask from you tonight. We ask that you recognize that it is not a residence, therefore the permits were not legally obtained. We ask you to recognize there's been other permits processing that has been violated or ignored, like covering in the pool. That was not done. They just poured dirt on top of it instead of pulling a permit to take out the pool. There's a lot of violations that have been done that are covered up now, but they're obviously there if you want to go back and look at the previous pictures of the property. So we just ask that you do something. This guy is a contractor for the city. He knows how to get around the laws. He knows what to do. And so we ask you to stop that for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth Fernandez.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for your time today. My name is Elizabeth Fernandez. I reside at 8225 East Shea Boulevard in Scottsdale. We've been residents there since 2016. Our property is just behind Hercules Field. Our neighbors have spoken to a lot of the issues, and I thought I'd take my 3 minutes to document what we have done to try to follow the proper channels through the city and really have gotten nowhere. We started through the City of Code Enforcement and identified some of the code enforcement violations that we were seeing. Mr. Gerhardt is a general contractor. I'm a licensed interior designer and am very familiar with the zoning laws of the city. He clearly did not pull any permits, and it was a surprise to code enforcement that he had not done so. We have provided, and I've left copies for you with all the emails, photographs, conversations with code enforcement to deal with the issue. What I have heard in response is, could you please prove that this is a business? So I have included advertisements specifically from Hercules Contractors and Hercules Field. Hercules Contractors refer to their business being located at 8226 East Shea Boulevard. They also specifically state proudly that they have opened a commercial baseball facility right next door. And I have provided both of those advertisements for you. I'm asking that the council please assist us. We've tried to take the proper channels as has been set forth, but really over the last year we've not been successful. My fear is that Mr. Gerhart is a general contractor. He knows the way around the rules. It is not uncommon for people to backdoor themselves step by step into a commercial residence or commercial property in a residential location, which is clearly not appropriate and is clearly not set forth by the zoning laws. So I've provided the information here, and I ask your support to please deal with code enforcement to ask for the operations to stop, because they clearly are operating. They'll stop for a little bit. Code enforcement will come see them, and then again, they will continue operations. I want you to imagine looking out your back window and seeing lights that are as significant as the Diamondbacks. It's that bright. They've done some work to shield it, but in reality, they've really done the bare minimum and are, in my opinion, bold-faced lying to code enforcement. And I'm asking that there be something done about that. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed Lissigar, followed by Brian Nelson and French Thompson.
Good evening. My name is Ed Lissigar. I live at 10629 North 83rd Street. We're one house away from the professional training facility that's known as Hercules Field. My wife and I have lived at this location for approximately 31 years. In 2019, we made a small adjustment to our garage, which had been in the same location for 59 years. Our application for a permit was turned down by zoning over an 8-inch discrepancy. Same location, 8 inches, 59 years. We were told our only opportunity was to go to the Board of Adjustment, which we did, and even though we had full support of our neighborhood, the Board of Adjustment turned us down. One of the board members actually stated that he wasn't quite sure, but he thought that our small adjustment to the garage could quite possibly be poisoning the city's water supply. Our only opportunity at that point was to go to the State Superior Court, which we did. This went on for 2 years. The city fought us every step of the way. Code enforcement and zoning over 8 inches. Eventually, only to the common sense through Councilwoman Solange and City Attorney Sherry Scott were we able to put this to bed, where the city finally admitted that 8 inches was kind of silly. Took 2 years to get that done. It cost my wife and I just shy of $50,000 in legal bills. When our neighbor Joe passed away, we watched his house was renovated and slowly turned into a professional ball field. No permits were pulled, and every night we became accustomed to hearing the ping of baseballs and bats in our backyard. We're one house away. Some nights as many as 20 cars parked in the what used to be the front yard on a very busy Shea Boulevard. Despite mountains of evidence, city did nothing. Blatant disregard for zoning. And we wanted to know with the city, why? Why do they continue to get away with this? We've already had one accident on Shea Boulevard where somebody passed away. We hear the screech of the tires on the nights that they're there. Some nights, 25 to 30 vehicles in the front yard. That's not what this was meant to be. This is a residential neighborhood. We'd like to keep it a residential neighborhood. And finally, I'm not against youth sports. I was a Division I scholar athlete for 2 years, NCAA. I've coached everything from the junior Coyotes to head coach of ASU's hockey program. I love youth sports, but there's a time and a place. And we need the city's help because this is not the place. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Brian Nelson? I don't see Brian, so French Thompson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, City staff. I'd like to offer you guys all an apology for my behavior About a month ago, I was in here. There was a subject matter that came up that I was very involved with for a long period of time, and I got very emotional, and I was calling out another citizen. And I just want to apologize to you. That was rude of me. It was disrespectful. I consider every one of you as my city council. You are my elected officials. Whether I agree with you all the time or whether I don't, you still have an office that I respect. That's where this apology is coming from. I respect your office. I respect the fact that you were voted in with other people running for office. You know, you guys are making tough decisions all the time. I don't want your job in any way, shape, or form, but I'm glad you're doing it. What I have a hard time is when people come up and lie to you, and I have to listen to it. So that's what I got really upset about, is an individual that comes up here. But I've also seen that individual come up and individually call out one or another of the city council by name. That's not here for a topic. That's not here for a subject matter that's before the city. They're actually attacking individual council people. And in my business, I've been around an awful lot of people, and I had dinner with a couple that were my customers. One's a psychiatrist, the other one's a psychologist. And I was telling them about this, and I said, well, you know, people like that do that, they're actually cowards, and they're bullies. And they don't have any self-respect. So I'm just making a suggestion to you, is when they do that, because at any given time they'll come up and call you out, you're dealing with a person that has no personal self-respect. So there's no reason for them to have any respect for you or your office or the fact that you're elected officials for the city of Scottsdale. Again, I don't always agree with you. Many times I do agree with you, but you guys literally are my city council, and I respect your office, and I appreciate you doing your job. Subject matter that came up before is part of what was going on in Old Town Scottsdale. I just want to say that Old Town Scottsdale has hundreds and hundreds of small businesses. Many, many, many families rely on the income produced by those businesses. And then those businesses, in turn, do business with other small businesses. So our Old Town Scottsdale businesses, retail, there's kids going to college, there's kids going to sports. I mean, there's lots of people that depend on this Old Town Scottsdale to make a living. And so anytime somebody comes up and disrespects that whole area of Scottsdale, I get upset about it. So thank you, and again, I do apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. That concludes the non-agendized public comment for the evening. So we will turn to the meeting minutes. Before us, we have the approval of special meeting minutes of February 11th, 2025, executive session minutes of February 11th, 2025, regular meeting minutes of February 11th, 2025. I would love a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approval, please indicate your vote.
Aye.
Thank you. You know, going back to the citizens petition that was submitted, I know, Mr. Schaefer, you sent me an email, I believe, asking when that would be discussed. The council has the option, based on your citizens petition, to agendize for a future meeting or do a couple other things, including no action. That will happen at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda, items 1 through 11. Do any of the council members have a question, or Councilman Graham?
Madam Mayor, if it's okay, I'd like to pull 2 items from the consent agenda.
Certainly.
Items number 6 and number 11. And I'll move to, unless there's no other debate, I'll move to approve of the consent agenda with the exception
Certainly.
of those 2.
And you said 6 and 10? 6 and
11.
11, 6 and 11. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of approval of consent agenda items 1 through 11 with the exception of, 1 through 10 with the exception of 6, please indicate your vote.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the regular agenda. Next, we have agenda items 12 and 13. Item 12 is a presentation, discussion, and possible direction of staff regarding the city's proposed fiscal year 2025-26 rates and fees. Presenting this evening on this topic are Scott Sellen, Kevin Rose, Dave Bennett, Michael Clack, Nick Molinari, Judy Doyle, Kira Peters, and Tom Shannon. And before we get started, I just want to ask a question. Mr. Schaefer, can I ask you a question? If you're planning to stay to the end of the meeting to hear the results, I'd rather take this out of order and have a discussion or entertain a motion on this one, a citizen's petition, so that you and your group there doesn't have to wait for us to do that. I'll make a motion to agendize the citizen's petition for a future meeting.
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? Okay. With that, let's take a vote on the motion to agendize.
Yes.
That motion passes. You're free to leave.
Play ball. Oh, wait.
Play ball. That was funny. Moving right along, item number 12, do we have Scott Sellen from the Budget Department?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Very pleased to be here with you tonight. By way of introduction, my name's Scott Sellen. I'm the newly hired budget director here at the city of Scottsdale. I look forward to working with you in the upcoming months and years. Tonight, we're here to present proposed rate and fee changes for fiscal year 25 and 26. Could you advance the slide, please? There are 3 required steps to adopt proposed rate and fee changes. First, the proposed changes are presented in detail to the council for review and feedback, which is what we're doing tonight. Next, the proposed rate and fee changes will be posted for a 60-day compliance period. Finally, once that period is complete, the third and final step is a public hearing to adopt proposed rate and fee changes. This year, that hearing is scheduled for the council meeting on May 20th. Before I get into a little bit more detail, I wanted to emphasize that all the proposed changes to rates and fees that are covered tonight are oriented towards recovering costs, and each department and division has their own methodology for recovering those costs. We've also taken into consideration any potential rate shocks. Could we go to the next slide, please? Starting with the enterprise funds, according to the Financial Policy number 9.02, all enterprise fees and rates are reviewed annually. This review is intended to ensure that rates and fees recover all costs, both direct and indirect, including debt service and future capital needs. Tonight, Water Resources and Solid Waste will be presenting fee change proposals to you on the enterprise fund side. Can we go to the next slide? For the non-enterprise category, per Financial Policy 4.05, rates and fees should be reviewed periodically and should be set based on an acceptable recovery rate for direct and indirect costs of service. Tonight, there will be proposed rate and fee changes for planning and development services, parks and recreation, enterprise operations, human services, and fire. Next. Thank you. So this slide shows the projected forecasted revenue for FY 25-26 for the proposed rate and fee changes that you'll hear about tonight. We'll start with the table on the right for enterprise funds. The proposed enterprise fund rate and fee changes for 25-26 will generate an additional $14.2 million in revenue between the two. Moving now to the table on the left-hand side, the non-enterprise for other operating funds, you can see the aggregate total of the proposed rate and fee changes. They are projected to generate $1.3 million to the general fund, $9,000 to the special programs fund, Finally, the Stadium Facility Fund shows a net change of $0 in additional revenue. And with that, I will turn the presentation over to, I believe, Mr. Kevin Rose, who will be presenting on behalf of Water Resources. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, thank you. Kevin Rose, Interim Water Resources Executive Director. And what I'm going to be presenting tonight is proposing is increase to our rates for water and sewer. And some significant cost drivers that we look at are big four, which is raw water, that's our Central Arizona Project water and our Salt River Project water. Personnel services, the men and women that do the day in and day out to ensure we collect the wastewater and also deliver water. Our electricity and our chemicals. As you can see, for the last 3 years, we've seen significant increases in these 4 different categories. Just a graphical representation, personnel services being the largest, 31.9. Then purchase water, 27.6 million that we're seeing increase our budgeted amounts that we're going to need to cover. Plus electricity, 19.5, and our treatment filter media, that's our GAC as we call it, granular activated carbon, and the chemicals. So what I'm proposing tonight on the water side for the water meters is a 4.5% increase across all meters. So as you can see with the table there, the current cost with the proposed changes. Then also on the volumetric side. So we have a tiered system. Start with the residential. All tiers we're going to be increasing the rate to by 4.5%. So we're doing the base fee 4.5% and the volumetric charge. In our commercial, it's a 4-tier system. We're also going to be increasing that by 4.5% upon your approval. Now to sewer. As you know, with sewer, we take the lowest 3 months, December, January, and February, and we take 90% of that to determine the sewer rate. And we use the meter size to come up with that base fee for the sewer. And as you can see, we're going to be increasing this not by 4.5%, but by 6%. We're seeing a bigger increase in costs on the sewer side. Sewer rates, we also charge based on the category, and the ones to note are more of the commercial dining and also the restaurants and bakeries. We look at the strength of the wastewater to treat. So that's how we come up with these numbers. Also, our miscellaneous service charges. On average, we're seeing a 10.9%, are going to be requesting a 10.9% increase for meter services line, meter maintenance, and our bulk water rate. And we do this graphical representation, giving an idea of where we sit with the valley. We benchmark ourselves, 1-inch meter being our most popular size, and it's about 16,000 gallons of usage in a month, and also the sewer, about 11,000 gallons. We look at that and benchmark ourselves. What we're proposing, we still be on the lower end, but it shows us in line with Tempe and Peoria, where a resident would be. We're seeing about a $5.91 potential impact increase to the residents and commercial businesses. So, proposing tonight is a water fee increase of 4.5%. This will go effective November 1st. Historically, we've done that on purpose. For the rate increase doesn't impact someone during summer peak demand. It hits in November. Then the sewer would go effective July 1st, and the miscellaneous service charges, which is about 10.9% on average, effective July 1st, 2025. And with that, any questions? I'll turn it over to Dave Bennett.
Thank you very much. Any questions? No. Councilman Graham.
I'll ask it later.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Dave Bennett. I'm the Solid Waste Services Director. I'm here to go over the proposed rates for solid waste rates and fees for fiscal year 25-26. Would you mind going to the next slide, please? As with last year, we worked with the Budget Office to conduct rate analysis. The company that performed the rate analysis for us is Burns & McDonnell. Listed below are the cities that have enlisted this company to perform similar rates and fees work. Next slide, please. The objectives for the rate analysis were to identify total costs to provide solid waste and recycling services to our customers. The rate analysis verified costs were being allocated to the correct customer classes, such as the residential, commercial, and roll-off programs. Doing so ensures that our residential ratepayers are not subsidizing any part of the commercial services program. And most importantly, design rates that protect the financial integrity of our operation. Next slide, please. For our 85,000 plus single-family residential customers that receive weekly trash and recycling service, monthly brush and bulk collection, a host of other services, we are proposing a 5% increase, a 4% increase for our 1,100 plus commercial refuse customers, and a 4% increase for our on-demand roll-off services program, and a 5.1% increase for commercial customers that utilize our 90 and 300-gallon containers for their recycling needs, and lastly, an 8.5% increase for our commercial recycling containers. Next slide, please. And this slide just shows you revenue estimates. This slide for each of the programs would generate for the proposed rate increase. Next slide, please. This chart breaks down what is contributing to the $1.51 monthly increase, monthly residential rate increase, I should say. As you can see, fleet maintenance, personnel, landfill costs account for 75% of the increase. Next slide, please. Regarding commercial refuse costs, again, personnel, fleet maintenance, and landfill costs account for 86% of this rate increase as well. For a business customer that has a 4-yard container picked up once a month, the rate increase would have them paying $5.22 more each month. Next slide, please. Mayor and Council, I believe most of you are aware of our plans to expand the transfer station. The project has already been approved through the CIP project process and is entirely funded through our current residential rates. How this project benefits our residential ratepayers: expanding the transfer station from 3 bays to 6 bays will double the tipping floor space. This will ensure that our current and future residential demands will be met. The additional floor space will also allow us to separate green waste and brush and bulk loads, and will in turn just extend the life of our landfill. Included in the transfer station expansion is a green waste drop-off area. The goal here is to capture green waste from commercial landscapers servicing our residents and large HOAs. Based on the distances these companies currently travel to dispose of this material, we see a real opportunity where they could save time and money by bringing this material to our site, and will hopefully pass on those cost savings to our residents. This will also have an impact on extending the life of our landfill. Part of the expansion also includes a permanent household hazardous waste facility. We currently provide monthly household hazardous waste home collection. However, this service is limited to the first 250 customers that sign up at the beginning of each month, and we limit the quantity of material each resident can place out for collection. Having a permanent facility will allow residents weekly access to properly dispose of their material, and they will also be able to bring in larger quantities of material. Another positive for a permanent facility is that approximately 25% of the material that is brought into this type of facility can be reused or recycled. And lastly, with the expansion of the transfer station, tipping floor, and adding a green waste drop-off area, this will create 2 new revenue streams for us, which will help us stabilize future residential rate increases. Next slide, please. With regards to construction for this project, it is slated to begin this summer, and it is expected to be completed in early 2027. Next slide. With regards to our commercial recycling customers, One of our goals last year was to close the gap on the discount these customers were receiving through multiple year rate increases. At present, front-load recycling rates average 28% lower than a refuse rate. The proposed rate increases will now have the commercial 4-yard recycling discount at 24%. We project to have the desired gap closed by fiscal year 29. And the proposed rate increases will achieve the desired discount for our 90 and 300-gallon recycling. So they've already achieved that discount, so they're right at 10% combined. Next slide, please. When I presented this graph to council last year, recycling markets were rebounding from a volatile year. Last fiscal year, to manage a ton of recycling, the average cost was $21.97. As of January 30th of this fiscal year, to manage a ton of recycling is averaging at a net neutral cost. For comparisons, our cost to bury a ton of garbage is $32.15. Next slide, please. With regards to safety, there's a lot of good news to report here again. Where we were at 4 years ago is far different than where we were at now. Many different entities in the city have helped solid waste get to this point, those being our risk management department, the city attorney's office, city manager's office, and members on this council. Throughout the past 4 years, each of these entities have helped my department get the necessary resources needed to improve our overall safety record, which, by the way, has had a big impact on us being able to retain employees and attract employees from neighboring cities. So thank you to everyone involved. Next slide, please. Okay, with regards to comparing our rates to other valley cities, as with last year, we fall right in the middle of the pack. However, the level of service and the number of services we provide to our customers far exceed most of the other cities on this list. As you can imagine, getting a 26-ton garbage truck to our northern communities poses a significant challenges for us, and unfortunately, this does come at a cost. Next slide, please. Just to recap, this slide shows you the proposed rate increases for each of our service programs. We're again seeking a 5% for our residential services program and a 4% for our commercial roll-off programs as well. And next slide, please. Just as before, this slide shows the revenue each service program will generate from the proposed rate increases. And with that, Mayor and Council, I'll be glad to help answer any of your questions.
I don't see any, so.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks. I think we have Nick Molinari.
I think we have the planning and development services fees next, and then I'll hop in right.
Sorry about that, Mr. Clack. Michael Clack.
Apologies, I was waiting for the slide to come up.
Sorry.
Okay, my name is, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Clack. I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services, also known as the Building Official for the City of Scottsdale. And what I'd like to present to you all is our slide regarding our rates and proposed rates and fees increases. If we could go to that next slide, please. Thank you. So we're proposing a 5.2 average increase in rates and fees. And as you all probably know, that the Planning and Development Services Department manages the development process here in the city of Scottsdale. It regulates development and improvement of property within our city limits. And prior to development or improving property, entitlements must be reviewed and or processed. Plans, also known as construction documents, need to be submitted for review for compliance with our codes. And then once those plans have been deemed to be compliant with our codes, the permits are issued in order to commence construction, and the permits is what allows for the inspection process to proceed. Per our Scottsdale Revised Code, Section 46-41, these fees are to be examined annually and may, by adoption of the City Council, be adjusted accordingly. And as a result of the annual review of these fees, we are proposing, as I said earlier, approximately a 5.2 average increase in our rates and fees. Including these fees associated with the wireless communications facilities that are located within the city's right-of-way. These increases are needed to help the department recover our operating costs to continue to provide customers with an excellent experience. The additional revenue expected of these increases is estimated to be a little more than $1.1 million, and that should get us to 100% recovery. And you see the revenue changes before you on this slide. As I said, the fees are set, or rates. The proposals, the increases are an average, because we have varying fees, and we have a number of fees that includes about 25 pages or 24 pages on our website of all the various fees that we have. And if I could use the Elmo. Yeah. If you all can see that, just wanted to go over a couple of the fees that would be impacted. Again, this isn't all the fees that we have, but as you can see, a pre-application fee, which is a fee for potential applicants to learn what steps and what requirements or course of action is needed for their proposed development. We meet with those applicants, and currently we charge $125 for that service. Under our proposed increase of, again, the average is 5.2%, that increase would be $131, or an increase of $6. Going down to our building permit fee, we chose single-family and commercial fees. As you can see, those fees are pretty much the same at $225 base fee and an 89 cents per square foot fee for both commercial buildings and single-family buildings. And the proposed increase is $237 on the base fee and 94 cents per square foot on the for our permit fees. That increase results in $12 and 5 cents respectively. And then one of our permits that we have is a water heater permit. Currently that's $60. Our proposed increase on that is $63, and the increase is $3. And so this just kind of gives you an impact of how some of the fees where average citizen would be impacted should they decide to do improvements to their property and need a permit. And with that, I'm prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I don't see any questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. I'm Nick Molinari, the Senior Director for Parks and Recreation in the Preserve. And the fees that the Parks and Recreation Department are bringing forward for recommendation this year is a fee increase to the 3 Scottsdale sports complexes. The city of Scottsdale operates 3 sports complexes: the Scottsdale Sports Complex, which has 10 soccer fields, the Bell 94 Sports Complex, which has 6, and the Riata Sports Complex, which has 5. We are recommending an increase to these fees that are it's a full 2-day full facility fee, so this is not an hourly rate increase. Next slide. The recommendation that we have is for the Scottsdale Sports Complex for the entire facility for a minimum of 2 days to be increased from $2,250 to $2,500. For the Bell 94 entire complex to be increased from $1,600 to $1,800. and then the Riata Sports Complex to be increased from $1,300 to $1,500. It would result in approximately $40,000 in additional revenue. And these fees are primarily assessed to youth sports tournament producers. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Judy Doyle is up next.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. I'm Judy Doyle. I am the Senior Director of the newly created Enterprise Operations Department, not to be confused with our enterprise funds. The Enterprise Operations Department includes our Tourism and Events Division, Westworld, McCormick-Stillman Railroad Park, the Scottsdale Stadium, and the airport. So what we were trying to do when we combined all of these dynamic areas together, it was really with the goal of enhancing Scottsdale's economy and the visitor and resident experience. So that was the reason behind forming that new department. Next slide, please. So tonight we are here to present the one fee that we have at the Scottsdale Stadium, and that is our first base patio fee. I hope you all have an opportunity to either get to a spring training game this year. If so, you will likely see the covered patio that was completed in February of '24 along that first baseline. I just want to note that a lot of the recent improvements that we have made at Scottsdale Stadium have been very intentional to activate that space to use beyond just the spring training season. And this first base patio is no exception. We had implemented a pilot fee in 2024 of $1,725 by considering factors such as capacity, the anticipated demand, ensuring that it was competitive within the market. I'll note that per resolution, the stadium can establish a pilot fee for approximately 1 year or less. The idea of the pilot fee is really to help assess the success of the fee and determine if it is appropriate and something we want to use in the long term. Prior to a pilot fee, I'll just note that we do have to follow the same rules and guidelines when implementing a fee. We have to post it to the city's website for at least 60 days. We do have to bring it before a board or commission for approval. Because the stadium was part of the Parks and Recreation Department in 2024, we did bring it before the Parks and Rec Commission, and they did approve the pilot fee in May of '24. We began using the fee in June of '24. Some of the events that were held in that space were celebrations of life. We had conference luncheons, meetings, the Arizona Fall League, Pac-12 baseball, etc. Because we found the fee to be appropriate, we are coming before you this evening to approve that, to make it a permanent fee. Next slide, please. I just wanted to share just some pictures of the space. It's a pretty incredible space. It's covered, has pretty amazing views. We have, since opening for use of that space, we have rented it 15 times. Next slide, please. So there is no anticipated change in the revenue with this action. It is, again, just making that pilot fee a permanent fee. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. No, thank you.
No, thank you. We don't see any questions, so thank you very much. Kara Peters.
Good evening, Mayor Borowski, Vice Mayor DeBoscus, and members of City Council. My name is Kira Peters, and I am the Senior Director over Libraries and Human Services. And I am here tonight to talk about two fees relative to senior services. So next slide, please. So our first recommendation is we would like to create a senior center excursion fee that is going to be operated out of a special revenue fund. So the reason we want to do this is we recently received a grant from the county, and we were able to take 636 senior participants on excursions between 2023 and 2024. And now that we have exhausted those grants funds, we really want to implement a program of our own. And this would be, again, covered out of special revenue. I think up here we might reference general fund. That's an error. This program would be offered out of special revenue. So what we want to do is recommend a 50% of direct cost recovery of that. So we would have a registration fee that would be affordable for senior participants to enjoy these excursions, and then the remainder of that 50% would be covered by the special revenue fund. So what we want to do is look for sponsorships and grants to help us do this work, but again, coming to all of you tonight here to establish a fee so that we can do that work once we garner some sponsorships or grants to run this. And again, 636 seniors, it was really a successful program, getting to go to ball games, museums, hiking trails, and this is really in an effort just to get more socialization and fight isolation that can happen amongst our senior population. So that's our fee number one. The second thing I want to propose is an elimination of the $2 table tennis fee. Prior to 2018, table tennis was a free event at our senior centers. We wanted to try implementing a fee, maybe just to generate a little bit of revenue for the general fund. But over the course of 7 years, we've only got $6,990, so it's really a minimal amount of revenue. We've seen attendance drop in table tennis, and recently had a member of the public come to a Human Services Commission meeting to talk about the hardship of paying a drop-in fee if you're an avid table tennis player and you really want to participate in paying $2 every time. So again, we would like to recommend the elimination of the $2 table tennis fee moving forward. So the next slide, please. This is just really a visual representation of what we're proposing here tonight. The top one is just an example of what the 50% cost recovery would be for a senior center excursion fee. If you were to have a registration fee of about $20, we could serve 50 residents and go on about 9 excursions over the course of the year and recovering 50% cost recovery. Next one there is the elimination of the table tennis, which again would just be a loss of about $1,738 annually, again, pretty minimal. So with that, that concludes the recommendations for senior services. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And next and finally, we have Tom Shannon. Okay, you're deferring.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Kerry Swick. I'm one of your assistant fire chiefs, and I'll be presenting just a couple fees for the fire department, if that's okay. Thank you for your time. So, as I said, there's really only 3. 2 of them are increases, 1 of them are brand new. The fire department in its prevention division, we care about keeping Scottsdale commerce moving forward. And with all the construction inspections that take place, we have found it necessary to provide before and after hours inspections that are outside the normal work time. So to do that, we need to have a fee to fund the inspector to go out there at midnight or whatever the case may be. This fee normally takes place, this service normally takes place towards the end for what we call the certificate of occupancy. So we're there. We sometimes do these things at 5 in the morning to get them open, approved with their CFO so they can start their business. This fee that I'll show you the price here in a minute, but we have not adjusted it for over 2 years. The second one is oftentimes outside of the special event a program, there'll be events that the fire department needs to review for safety. And that too, this was to prevent promoters from last minute dropping plans and things on us and expecting to get it cleared in time for their event. So we're kind of trying to nudge them to give their stuff up a little sooner. Then the last one, we're in a great partnership with it's called a compliance engine. I can, on my dashboard right now, tell you that we're at 92.7% compliance in all the fire sprinkler systems, extinguishers, hood systems in the city of Scottsdale. So it's a tracking system, and the company that helps us with that actually has the database, is going to have a price increase, so we were going to bump ours up a little bit more. So again, the after hours was 500. We're going to go to 700. There is no, when we went from 300 to 500, there was no slowing down. We typically do about 250 of these a year. The special event plan rush rate, that permit fee, the 500, matches and aligns with all the fire department's other fees for fireworks or Christmas tree lot. And again, it's the rush rate because it's a rush. And then the Brycer compliance engine, our current fee is 35. We just want to go to 50 because they're going to go up somewhat too, probably 45. And that's it, if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that concludes the presentations. And we have no additional public comment on non-agendized items, so I'll move on to item 13. Item 13 is the annual review and possible adoption of the city's comprehensive financial policies. Presenting this evening on this topic is City Treasurer Sonia Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is our annual review and adoption of our comprehensive financial policies. Our comprehensive financial policies are a very important component of our sound financial management practices. The policies allow us to formalize or codify best practices. It ensures that we maintain fiscal responsibility. Next slide. Ensures that we maintain fiscal responsibility and budgetary controls. Policies are also used in our budgeting for financial planning purposes, and also importantly, the rating agencies pay attention to our financial policies. Strong policies increase our rating score and helps us maintain our strong bond ratings. Next slide. We review our policies every year and make any necessary changes to update and improve them. This year, our proposed changes are housekeeping in nature to clarify language. There are also some minor changes to improve and strengthen our policies, and we are also incorporating the new Ordinance 4633 to allocate the new park and preserve tax. So all the proposed changes are detailed in the attachment to the council report and agenda. With the remaining slides, I'm going to go over some the most notable changes that we are proposing in our policies. Next slide. The first proposed change is to our fiscal planning and budgeting policy number 1, and this is to better define our budgetary controls, primarily where we can call out general account classifications as a budgetary control level. So any movement of budget authority between personnel and non-personnel categories will require authorization. Next slide. And this is a new addition to our policy to establish a revenue stabilization reserve for the 0.15 park and preserve tax. And the proposed revenue stabilization reserve is 20% of operating uses. Next slide. And this is to remove the policy requirement for a 2% asset replacement reserve in our water and wastewater fund. The 2% reserve was a requirement from the water and sewer revenue bonds that we had outstanding. Those bonds were paid off in 2023, so the 2% requirement no longer applies. However, we will still maintain a policy that departments need to identify aging capital assets, develop an asset replacement plan, and funding of a replacement reserve as needed. Next slide. This is a new policy to strengthen our budgetary controls. We currently already do this in practice. It's just formalizing it in our policy, is that any mid-year initiatives, any budget related to requests for new ongoing programs initiated outside the annual budget development process will require city manager approval, and the related budget authority must be approved by council. Next slide. This is another proposed adjustment to our policy relating to grant funding. Our current policy is that any grant brought to council, we have to disclose the match requirement, but we're beefing up this policy to make sure that not only the match requirement, but any additional funds needed to carry out the use of the intended grant be expressly disclosed to council as well. Next slide. And this is the new policy, policy number 11, to codify the allocation of the new 0.15 park and preserve tax. We will deposit the 0.15 sales tax into a park and preserve tax allocation fund, and then from that allocation fund, we will distribute it according to the ordinance 4633 that council approved. Next slide. And that allocation is outlined on this slide. Basically, after the debt requirements for the Westworld improvements are satisfied, the net revenues will be distributed 51% for park improvements, 18% for preserve maintenance, 14% for park maintenance, 10% for fire-related expenses, and 7% for the police park rangers. And this is in line with the ordinance that council adopted. Next slide. And this is the final slide. We're proposing to change our percent of unrestricted portion of construction sales tax that we transfer to the general fund capital from 50% to 25 to 50%. And the rest of it remains the same, the 100% of interest earnings and any additional funding recommended through the budget process. And that is the last slide, and I can answer any questions that you might have.
Councilman Quasman.
Yes, thank you. I'm looking at 1104 regarding fund balances in Park and Preserve. Page 5 of 6, I believe. I just want to know, is that the, and forgive forgive the fact that if I have not looked into this, this is the first I've seen this on my end. Is that the common practice that fund balances are always carried forward? Is there any type, with other special taxes that have occurred that are similar to the Park and Preserve tax?
Yes, Madam Mayor, council members, Councilman Quasman, absolutely. So if the tax is restricted, any unused tax remains in that fund and carried forward.
Thank you.
I don't see any more questions. Does that conclude your presentation? And you're looking for?
Yes, we're looking for approval and adoption of the comprehensive financial policies.
I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I move to approve the financial policies for Resolution 13356.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We've already taken the vote on the citizens petition, and that brings us to the consent agenda items that were removed. So starting with item number 6. Councilman Graham, do you want to speak to item 6?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think what I'll do is just ask Allison Timke appears to be walking up to give us a presentation. You can keep the presentation brief. I had a couple brief remarks after that, and then I'm going to...
Oh, okay. Sorry, Mayor, Council members. I actually don't have a formal presentation, so I just had a slide stating the action as well as the site plan. So,
do you want to speak to the reasons you pulled it off the consent agenda?
There's a request to speak on this, I think. Is there a request?
Yeah, we can take that after
Okay.
we have dialogue in the presentation.
Oh, I'll probably let the speaker speak first. If that's okay, Mayor.
If you don't have anything to add, I'll call for the speaker, John Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I guess I'll speak to this. So I hope, my name's John Rosenberg, by the way, and my address is on record. I hope the reason that this was pulled is not to relitigate this parking structure over on 6th Avenue. We've already been through this. The voters overwhelmingly approved the need for additional parking in Old Town. The 6th Avenue lot, it was approved by pretty much everyone up there, including Councilman Graham, last July. So I think everyone's in support of the need for a parking structure over there. At the time, all city staff was also in support, the police, the city manager, transportation, and every single neighbor in the northeast quadrant. Again, as the voters who also supported the need for additional parking. Nothing has changed that need. Nothing's changed. Every single neighbor is in full support of this, as I mentioned, and the facts remain the same. This is a daytime problem. There are almost 500 businesses in that quadrant that are in desperate need for additional parking, and they have been for years. We submitted over 350 signatures last year of Northeast Quadrant stakeholders who were concerned about the need for parking, and not doing so could affect their businesses. In 2015, there was a Walker parking study which was commissioned by the city, which supported the desperate need for parking in the Northeast Quadrant. It's urgent, more urgent now than it ever was. There's a lot more projects in queue that are coming. We're going to need it. Again, and lastly, the Northeast Quadrant is the only quadrant that actually has never had the benefit of a new parking structure. And yet, that quadrant gave the land that will be used for the parking structure to the city, piece of land which today is worth $20 million in today's value. So let's not ignore the 500 businesses in this quadrant that were promised this garage. Not moving forward would show complete disregard for the lifeblood of our downtown. Please proceed as agreed and move forward with the desperately needed garage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Whitehead.
Thank you for reminding us all the details of that long discussion we had last year. I'm going to motion to adopt item 6, build the new parking structure on the northeast quadrant of Old Town Scottsdale, design, build, manager, and pre-construction and design services contract, and adopt resolution number 13344. Second.
All those in favor? Oh, excuse me, Councilman Graham.
Thank you. Is Miss Timke, okay, there you are. I just, for a quick question, and I appreciate the testimony from Mr. Rosenberg. This parking structure is going to, how many levels is this parking structure going to be? It's going to be 1 or 2 parking levels. Do you know that answer?
we're currently planning for it to be 2 levels.
Okay. So how many net additional parking spaces do you anticipate?
It will be approximately 272 spaces, and providing a net increase of 144 spaces over the 128 spaces currently at the location. So That is just based on a preliminary concept that staff had prepared, but obviously this contract that's getting awarded will prepare the design,
Right.
and then all those details will be worked out.
And then this, because it's two parcels that sort of hang over 6th Avenue, do you contemplate like the parking garage on the north and south side of 6th Avenue to hang over and like have an underpass? Or how do you plan to, do you have any plans for that, or we'll kind of wait and see?
Yes, we'll have to get through the design to see that.
Okay. Just a few remarks, and then I'll be ready to vote on this. The downtown has been deprived. There's been a death grip depriving downtown from desperately needed parking. Our tourism is higher than ever. We have invested millions and millions of dollars to supercharge our civic center and other places, including our giant stadium. And I do agree with Mr. Rosenberg and others who say that the Northeast Quadrant does have parking deficits. I will say that is by total design, and if you look at the history, the P3 program deliberately created those parking deficits. So even though the parking needs are acute in the Southeast Quadrant, more parking, I believe, in the Northeast Quadrant will provide welcome relief to the entire downtown area. So I'm very excited to vote on this item. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. With that, all those in favor of consent agenda item 6, please indicate your vote.
Aye.
All right, that motion passes unanimously. Moving on to consent agenda item 10. Councilman Graham, do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item, it stood out to me, and it is was this the item that was delayed, continued, okay, recently? My question really for staff, I think that we're talking with Kelly Corsett, is the staff contact? Okay, there he is. We are hiring Matrix Design Group, paying them $700,000. When's the last time we've paid a third party to evaluate our ADA compliance?
Mayor Borowski, Councilmember Graham, members of the council, I am not aware of the last time the city hired an outside entity to do this work. The city's original plan is well over 20 years old and predates, I think, anyone on staff who's currently working on this.
Cities similar to us, Peoria, Glendale, Chandler, Gilbert, have you taken the time to look at whether they do this?
Yes, Councilman Graham, every city is required by the ADA to have a self-evaluation and transition plan. I believe Tempe is the city who most recently updated theirs. I believe Chandler may also have completed a recent update as well.
Do they do it internally, or do they hire a third party?
To my knowledge, Councilman Graham, members of the council, they hire firms with expertise in doing this. It's a very big effort and would be beyond the scope of staff in any city, including ours.
Peoria, Glendale, Gilbert, do you know Peoria, Glendale, Gilbert? Did you take the time to check the last time they did or who they used?
Councilman Graham, I don't have a city-by-city tally of who did what when. We did look at peer cities when we were first undertaking this effort to initiate an RFP so that we could get a better understanding of what the effort would look like, what a competitive bid process needed to include, et cetera. But I don't have a full list of every city in the valley to see how they tackled the same work.
And then my last question, what was the impetus for doing it at this time? Why not last year or next year? What was the catalytic event?
Councilmember Graham, the city has, for a number of years, been taking what I would call more of a piecemeal approach, sort of facility by facility, area by area, but it became clear to us that we would never get to a full update of our plan as required doing it that way. So it was a year ago where we made the request for the initial funding, the $300,000 that's in this year's budget, with the intent that we complete the work so that we can feel confident that the needs of the community are being addressed and the city's liability is minimized to the degree that, that it can be through this effort.
And then who will they be working with our risk department during this process?
Councilmember Graham, members of the council, so I'll be the contract administrator. Our ADA Title VI coordinator will help coordinate the effort, but it will be a comprehensive effort throughout the city, working with risk, with facilities, with transportation, with capital projects. It is a comprehensive citywide effort that'll involve every department in the city to some degree.
Have you estimated how many staff hours it will require?
We have not estimated what the city's staff hours look like. No, we know that we will be coordinating out of our office. We've had a number of those departments involved in creating the bid and participating in the RFP process, but I can't tell you what an estimate of staff hours look like as the work continues. As we bring the firm on board, they will, of course, handle the bulk of it.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman McCallan.
Thank you, Mayor. Kelly, can you just give a brief overview so everyone understands that, first of all, that this is federally mandated, we have to comply, but a little bit about what it is they're looking at throughout the entire city and what a massive undertaking this is and why we contract it out, please?
Thank you, Mayor Borowski, Councilwoman McCallan, members of the council. I wonder if it would be helpful if I invite Kevin Lardner from Matrix Design Group up to go through a few slides that he has that really, I think, will best answer that question.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure how we advance the slides up here. There we go. So if you could go to the end of this deck, Sam, not the very end, but it will transition from the city slides to Matrix Design Group slides. There we go.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak. So, great question about the scope of work. If we could jump to the next slide. So really, the project objective to what Kelly has spoke about, right? This is an all-encompassing understanding of the city's facilities, programs, and policies, right? So when we look at this from a risk-based perspective, that's the way we're looking at this. We must look at a compliance for ADA and ABA and state requirements. So at the end of this, we're going to be generating a self-evaluation and transition plan, which will then help prioritize and generate implementation for monitoring a barrier removal associated with what's required with ADA Title II. So to the question that was asked about what is the general scope of work here, if we look at the column on the right, we're looking at 2,000 miles of sidewalk that requires boots on the ground for all of that, requires 125 miles of multi-use paths, 160 miles of unpaved trails, 14,800 curb ramps, 593 signalized intersections, 17 pedestrian signals, and around 640 facilities and park structures. So this is a massive undertaking. And so really what I wanted to highlight here with this slide is I think it's a common misconception that when we think of accessibility, we tend to think of maybe wheelchair users, but this goes beyond that. This is so many others that are greatly impacted by accessibility and the importance of why Scottsdale should look to implement this. So, there are more disabilities out there that are not, that truly benefit from this accessibility. Next slide, please. And so really just to highlight a little bit about our methodology for how we're going to collect this massive amount of data, we will be utilizing multiple different data collection systems. But to highlight the golf cart that's greatly misplaced in snow here, but this highlights our data collection method for all of the trails, sidewalks that will be used. This is essentially a mobile sensor that can go ahead and collect all the necessary data that we need to establish discontinuities, running, cross slopes, any areas that would generate out of compliance with ADA or ABA. We'll also utilize BlueDAG, which is what's used in facilities to help generate easy compliance within state regulations and federal regulations. And so with this, all of this data then gets incorporated into the city's current GIS data platform and into their asset management system. So the data that we collect is the city of Scottsdale's, and it is available and for anyone to see and available for many years down the road. Next slide. And so really what will generate out of all that data collection will be a field survey report, which will provide a understanding then of where barriers currently exist, and additionally kind of what is the risk to Scottsdale by having those barriers remain in place. So with that, we'll generate general cost data as well for what it would take for barrier removal. This can help associate then implementation and prioritization to help make sure that the dollars that are spent are allocated to the most appropriate and most pressing needs. Next slide, please. We'll also engage with the community. This is a key part of our scope of work. And so with this, we'll be making sure that the general public is obviously understood, but also who are those that are most impacted and making sure that their voice is heard. A large time when it comes to data collection or when it comes to public outreach, especially with the disabled community, it's more about how do you want to provide feedback more than just do you want to provide feedback. And so Matrix Design Group with our strategic partners specialize in this public outreach in making sure that those that are most impacted have a voice and can express the concerns that they see throughout the community. Next slide. And so in the end, what are we generating is the ADA transition plan. So as a requirement of ADA Title II, we'll be generating and identifying the barriers that are out there from the field survey report. We're going to be producing transparency and methodology associated with this so that it's very clear how we collected data and why things are not compliant. We'll provide that recommendations for barrier removal and the costs associated with that. Identify a timeline for achieving compliance. Again, this is look at minimizing the risk to the city of Scottsdale. Recommended changes to current policies and procedures. Identifying a responsible party for implementation. Identifying funding mechanisms that can help support barrier removal. And then in compliance with ADA Title II, it's a dashboard for soliciting continuous feedback so that this is not just a one-time thing, but a constant and continuous opportunity. And then also enabling dashboard database monitoring platforms so that the public has the opportunity to see the progress that the city of Scottsdale has made in making Scottsdale more accessible for all. I think that's it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Whitehead.
So that's really impressive, and I think, so thank you for having the added presentation on this. So I'm interested on the public input. Until recently, we didn't have an ADA coordinator, and I had so many residents coming to me with specific issues. And so how are you going to facilitate that? Will there be a number, or maybe this is a question for Kelly. Basically, the people who have contacted me in the past, I would reach out to them and say, we're doing this study. How would they participate? Again, is there a number, is there an email? I know a lot of these people, of course, have some challenges, but, whether usually physical disabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. Not sure if it's possible to go back to the public outreach slide. Yep, thank you. So really what we're going to do is accessible public meetings. So we've proposed to do 3 of those. So that'll be community outreach meetings where we are advertising this. It's an opportunity to provide that feedback directly face-to-face, of course, including a virtual option for those that would prefer that. Additionally, we're creating this ID Places interactive mapping feature so that 24/7 from wherever you are, you have an opportunity to provide feedback. That is a geolocated feedback opportunity. So if you're standing at an intersection and going, I got no sidewalk to go to, you can drop a pin, provide that right on the spot, and that is directly inputted into our database and observed. And then additionally, as I tried to highlight, we will be doing targeted disability community outreach to make sure that those that are most impacted have an opportunity to make their voice heard.
You know, the thing you just said about the sidewalk, I think impacts all of us up here, because we, a few weeks ago, heard from a resident whose friend was wheelchair bound and fell because the sidewalk wasn't ADA compliant in the summer and died from her wounds because she couldn't get up from the hot sidewalk. So that's really meaningful. I like that idea. Okay, how do you, and this is just I'm going to throw this out there. I'm not asking for an answer, but one of the complaints I get has to do with foliage, you know, with landscaping. Is that something, so that is not a one-time fix. It's like a property owner, and it could be anything from, you know, usually a private property owner where their foliage, which we all love, but it's impacting the sidewalk or something. Is that something you kind of look for and have suggestions for when you come back with your report?
Yeah, absolutely. So the data that we are collecting, again, is all geolocated. So as we monitor that, we can easily put in there that this is an item of concern, and then, you know, note that it is, whether it's maintenance or vegetation, and categorize accordingly.
Okay, well, I don't see any more questions, so I'll go ahead and motion on this item 11, this Americans with Disability Act. Let me put my glasses on. Self-evaluation and transition plan update, and request that we adopt resolution number 13331 to authorize contract number 2025-17, City of Scottsdale with Matrix Design Group Incorporated, and give the city manager or designee the authority to execute any other documents.
I'll second it.
I see Councilman Klausman has a comment or question.
Yeah, recognizing that this isn't a comment out of order, I just wanted to state that this is just one of those times where, as somebody who has been involved in risk management for a long time, I'd like to urge my fellow council members to vote in support of this motion, and just the illustration brought forward by Councilwoman Whitehead, I think is extremely poignant. This pays for itself. This absolutely pays for itself as a risk management aspect to it. It's the right thing to do for constituents, and I support this vociferously.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions or comments, please vote on agenda item number 11 as motioned.
Aye.
This motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman Littlefield.
Yes, thank you. I have a request also. I would like for the city staff to look at the concerns of the neighbors as they spoke about their neighborhood and the construction storage site located off Shea and 8226 East Shea, and I think I had 10617 North 85th Street, a sports facility, where they're using residential lots to have non-residential activities there, commercial activities, and I would like to have staff take a look at this and report back to us as to what they found and what our alternatives are if they found this is correct, what we can do to fix this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Littlefield. We actually took a vote on that motion to agendize this for a future council meeting, and that motion passed.
Good.
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Turning now to mayor and council items. Next, we have boards and commissions and task force nominations. As protocol states, I will turn the meeting over to Vice Mayor DeBoscus, who will be chairing this portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening, the City Council will be nominating Scottsdale residents' interest in serving on citizen advisory boards, commissions, and committees. The Scottsdale City Council is responsible for establishing city policies and enacting laws in support of those policies. The council relies on volunteer, citizen-based boards and commissions to research issues and make recommendations in support of the council's mission and goals. The information and recommendations provided by council-appointed advisory boards is a valuable tool in helping council members in their deliberations. Appointments for these positions will be made by a special city council meeting on March 18. As we begin our process this evening, I'd like to note to my colleagues that an applicant only needs to receive one nomination in order to advance to interview before the council. When I call on you, if your chosen applicant or applicants have already been nominated by a council member, please state no additional and we'll move on in the process. Thank you, and let's get started. The Airport Advisory Commission advises the City Council on policy matters related to the operation of the airport, proposals for development, airport area land use, fees, and safety concerns. Charles McDermott resigned from the commission this past December. There is one vacancy and 6 applicants. The applicants are Craig Bennett, Thomas Kuby, David McCartney, Jamie Shaw, John Sloan, Carl Stein. I will now entertain nominations for the Airport Advisory Commission. Each council member can nominate one applicant. I will start with Councilmember Quasman.
I would like to pass in favor of more senior members of the council.
Councilwoman McAllen.
Jamie Shaw.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
John Sloan.
Mayor Borowski.
Craig Bennett.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
David McCartney.
David McCartney. Okay. Councilman Graham.
Yes,
Mr. Kuby.
No additional. The following, Adam Councilman Quasman?
Carl Stein.
Okay. Looks like everyone was nominated. Okay. The Building Advisory Board of Appeals has the jurisdiction to recommend that minor variances in the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical application of the building code be granted, and that alternative construction methods or materials be allowed. Terms for Quentin Augustberger and Greg Barker expire in March. Both are eligible for reappointment. However, only Quentin Augustberger has submitted an application for consideration for the new term. There are 2 vacancies and 2 applicants. The applicants are Quentin Augustberger and Frederick Detman. Should we still go ahead? Okay. I will now entertain nominations for the Building Advisory Board of Appeals. Each council member can nominate 2 applicants, and I will start with Councilwoman McAllen.
Quentin Osbarger. And Frederick Detman.
Thank you, Councilwoman McAllen. Quentin Osberger and Frederick Detman have been nominated. The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee receives reports on the city's progress in implementing the bond program, reviews any proposed project changes to the program, and provides comments to the City Council with respect to the bond program as the committee deems appropriate. Jane McCart's term expires in March and is eligible for reappointment. However, she did not submit an application for consideration. There is 1 vacancy and 7 applicants. The applicants are James Davis, Amy Grinshaw, Corey Haygood, Patricia Pellett, Brett Phillips, Scott Sandell, and Tammy Smith. I will now entertain nominations for the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. Each council member can nominate 1 applicant. Councilwoman Whitehead.
Corey Haygood.
Mayor Borowski.
Tammy Smith.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
James Davis.
Councilman Graham.
Patricia Pellett.
Councilman Quasman.
Amy Grimshaw.
Councilwoman McAllen.
No additional.
And I have no additional. So the following individuals were nominated: James Davis, Amy Grimshaw, Corey Haygood, Patricia Pellett, and Tammy Smith. The Environmental Advisory Commission provides guidance on the prioritization of future environmental activities and recommends environmental policies to the City Council. Special qualifications. As specified by the Scottsdale City Code, the membership of the board shall reflect both scientific and non-scientific interests. Walter Kulik's term expires in March and is ineligible for reappointment. There is 1 vacancy and 10 applicants. The applicants are John Cressy, Trixie Ann Goldberg, Steve Goodman, Kevin Consul, Mark Marius, Robert Newport, Greg Odegaard, Oliver Ross, Joshua Stearns, Judith Waxelbaum. I will now entertain nominations for the Environmental Advisory Commission. Each council member can nominate 1 applicant. Mayor Borowski.
Judah Waxelbaum.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Judah Waxelbaum.
Councilman Graham.
No additional.
Councilman Quasman.
No additional.
Councilwoman McCallan.
John Cressy.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Mark Marios.
And I have no additional. So we have nominated John Cressy, Mark Marius, and Judah Waxelbaum. The Human Relations Commission advocates and promotes all dimensions of diversity. The Commission acts as an advisory body to the mayor, city council, and staff to make recommendations on ways to encourage mutual respect and understanding among people, to discourage prejudice and discrimination, and to work towards cultural awareness and unity. DeMarco Kaysen and James Somerville resigned from the Commission in December. There are 2 vacancies and 7 applicants. The applicants are Paul Epstein, Jacqueline Fayad, Mason Gates, Jeannie McKenna, Jill Pearlstein, Andy Rickey, and Shiri Sapir. I'll start with Councilwoman Littlefield.
Mason Gates and Sherry Sapir.
Councilman Graham.
None additional.
Councilman Quasman.
No additional.
Councilwoman McCallan.
McKenna, Janine McKenna, and Andy Rickey.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
No additional.
Mayor Borowski.
No additional.
And I have no additional. We have nominated Mason Gates, Jeannie McKenna, Andy Rickey, and Shiri Sapir. The Judicial Appointments Advisory Board makes advisory recommendations to the City Council regarding the appointment and reappointment of full-time city judges. Special qualifications. The 7-member JAAB will consist of 2 active judges, 1 representative from both the state and the Scottsdale Bar Associations, and 3 citizens appointed by the City Council who are not judges in any official capacity, nor retired judges, nor members of the State Bar of Arizona. Susan Galpin-Tyree resigned from the board in February. There is 1 citizen representative vacancy and 5 applicants. The applicants are Jeannie Beasley, James Bultema, Richard Engel, Michael Gonzalez, and Diane Mann. Councilman Graham.
Ms. Beasley.
Councilman Quasman.
No additional.
Councilwoman McCallan.
Richard Engel.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
No additional.
Mayor Borowski.
No additional.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
James Bultema.
And I have no additional. We have nominated Jeannie Beasley, James Bultema, and Richard Engel. The Lost Trust Fund Board is responsible for recommendations to the City Council regarding the administration of the Lost Trust Fund. Special qualifications. As specified by the Scottsdale City Code, the City Council shall appoint 5 joint trustees, of whom no more than 1 shall be a member of the City Council, and no more than 1 trustee may be a city employee. Jacob Seltzer's term expires in March. He is eligible for reappointment and has submitted an application for consideration. Mark Stevens' term on the board ended in January as he was appointed to the Budget Review Commission. There are 2 vacancies and 1 applicant. The applicant is Jacob Seltzer. I will now entertain a nomination for the Lost Trust Fund Board, and I'll start with Councilman Quasman.
I'd like to pass to a more senior member of the, just kidding, okay. Jacob Seltzer.
We have nominated Jacob Seltzer. Yeah. The Neighborhood Advisory Commission advises and makes recommendations to the City Council on policies, plans, strategies, and programs for the preservation, improvement, and revitalization of Scottsdale's housing and neighborhoods. Louise Lamb resigned from the commission in January. There is 1 vacancy and 8 applicants. The applicants are Kimberly Barris, Rafael Borobia, Jane Brenna, Katie Coral, David Creed, Marissa Jimenez, Ira Scott, and Christopher Smoody. I will now entertain nominations for the Neighborhood Advisory Commission. Each council member can nominate 1 applicant. Councilwoman McAllen.
Ira Scott.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Marissa Jimenez.
Mayor Borowski.
David Creed.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Jane Brenna.
Councilman Graham.
Ms. Perez.
Councilman Quasman.
No additional.
And I have no additional. We have nominated Kimberly Barris, Jana Brenna, David Creed, Marissa Jimenez, and Ira Scott. The Parks and Recreation Commission advises the City Council on the acquisitions of lands and facilities for use as parks or recreation centers, and on the operation, use, care, and maintenance of these parks and recreation areas. Kristen Parrish's term expires in March. She's eligible for reappointment and has submitted an application for consideration. There is 1 vacancy and 9 applicants. The applicants are Jamie Alford, Bodo Dienham, Allison Ford, Larry Funk, Kristen Parrish, Marissa Pellegrini, Michelle Ruskino, Samuel Swinehart, Sarah Rose Weber. I will now entertain nominations for the Park and Recreation Commission. Each council member can nominate 1 applicant. Councilwoman Whitehead.
Kristen Parrish.
Mayor Borowski.
I want to nominate 2. So I'm going to say, I'm going to test my luck here. I really want Jamie Alford on this commission for sure, but I'm going to nominate Bodo Diem because I have a feeling Jamie might get nominated anyway. So with that.
Councilwoman Littlefield.
Well, you are absolutely correct. I nominate Jamie Alford.
Councilman Graham.
None additional. Jamie Alford.
Councilman Quasman.
We were going to make you sweat it, but no additional.
Councilwoman McAllen.
No additional.
And I have no additional. We have nominated Jamie Alford, Bodo Dien, and Kristen Parrish. This concludes our nomination process this evening. Individuals nominated will be contacted by city staff with additional information. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank all who have applied to serve on a citizen advisory board or commission. Even if you were not nominated, your application will remain on file for 1 year for consideration at a future date if there are additional vacancies. Thank you very much, Mayor Borowski.
Thank you, Vice Mayor DeBoscus. And that concludes all of our business for tonight. Anyone want a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Suspend the rules. Just say yes.
Aye.
Get better, Kathy.
Thank you.